Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our holy experience. Just a reminder, if you are following us this quarter of July, August, and September, we are focusing on our theme and our value at Holy Ground Spiritual Center, education. And today we will be learning about education from our LGBTQ perspective, offering some resources. And I will introduce the speaker later. But I want you to just take a minute to get centered wherever you are. If you're in your seat, if you're in your bed, if you're driving, just take a minute to catch a few breaths as we get prepared for worship. I will tap the chime and invite you to just gather your thoughts for the day, gather your actions for the month, and gather your hope and dreams for the future. Let us worship with Kimberly Shante, our Living in Truth music director.
We worship you, Lord. We take the time out to reverence your name. We love you, yeah. God, I look to you. I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you. You're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom, for you know just what to do. Yeah. We honor your name. God, I look to you. I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you. You're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom, for you know just what to do. And I will love you, Lord, my strength. And I will love you, Lord, my shield. And I will love you, Lord, my rock. Forever all my days I will love God. Oh yeah, we'll love you forever and ever and ever and ever. God, I look to you. I won't be overwhelmed. Give me vision to see things like you do. God, I look to you. You're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom, for you know just what to do. And I will love you, Lord, my forever all my days. I will love you, God. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Forever all my days, I will love you, God. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Hallelujah, our God reigns. Forever all my days, I will love you, God. I love you forever. Oh, we lay our burdens at your feet, God. Oh, for we know you are big enough, you are strong enough to carry our load. I will love you, Lord, my strength. I will love you, Lord, my shield, because you protected me. I will love you, Lord, my God, forever all my days. I will love you, God. We love you, Lord. That I look to you, you're where my help comes from. Give me wisdom, for you know just what to do. Yeah. We just take the time to reverence your name. We create an atmosphere of worship. We praise your name. In my life, be glorified, be glorified. In my life, be glorified, be glorified. In my life, be glorified, be glorified. Be glorified, be get the praise. You take the honor. And I wanna say, you get the glory. You get the praise. You take the honor. I just wanna say, you get the glory. You get the praise. You take the honor. And I wanna say thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. We just wanna say, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. We just want to take the time out to simply say thank you. Oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Oh, you get the glory. You get the praise. You take the honor. I just want to say, you get the glory. You get the praise. You take the honor. I just want to say, oh, you get all the praise. You take the honor. You get the glory. Get the glory out of my life. You take the honor. I just want to say, oh, we just want to say thank you. In my life, be glorified, be glorified.
Eternal One, we want to say thank you. Pray with me. Heavenly Parent, our ancestors, and our source, we just want to say thank you. Thank you for life. Thank you for love. Thank you for community. We know that whatever we are going through during this time and this place, you are with us. Even during those times where we can't see or feel or have missed the opportunity or missed the moment to embrace your holiness, we know that you are with us. Friends, family, holy grounders, take this time to share your requests to the God of your understanding. And know that as we pray for ourselves, we pray for each other. Eternal One, I am grateful to be here, to open my heart and open my mind and open my spirit to learn, because that's worship, you all. As we are vessels of living a life of love and compassion and support, Let us commit to opening our hearts, opening our minds, and opening our spirits for the impossible, for the unknown. And God, as we know that you are with us today, we thank you for our ancestors that we carry and that celebrate us and push us. We thank you. And for nature that shows us that God is present. We thank you. We are grateful. And as we move on through our holy experience, know that this is just the beginning of our worship and our service. Now we'll move forward in worshiping and opening our mind in service to education, because we know the more we know, the further we grow. And as those of us committed to community and family, we know that we have to be equipped during these times, because there are things out there and people saying things that are just untrue. But as people of faith and as members of humanity, it is important for us to know as much as we can. I hope you have shared your petitions to the God of your understanding. If you have any prayer requests, post them in the chat. If you have personal prayer requests, follow us on holyground.org and you can post your prayer requests there. Eternal One, we are grateful for this day. We are grateful for our gifts. We are grateful for this life. Amen. So today, you all are in for another treat. We have Tracy Mills-Howell here to share with us on LGBTQ education. And I'm going to read Tracy Mills-Howell's bio. Tracy, a native of High Point, North Carolina, is the eldest of 3 siblings, born to James and Ida Howell. Raised in a small and tight-knit family, Tracy has always valued family bonds, and even more now that she has increased understanding of family. That any group of people who love, care for, and respect each other may be considered family. An avid reader and advocate of lifelong learning, Tracy promotes education as a key to annihilating the atrocities of discrimination, hate, and violence that plague marginalized members of our society. Tracy is founder and executive director of Safe Zone High Point, a new LGBTQ community center, High Point's first dedicated LGBTQ resource, emphasizing education as a means to ensure all residents experience safety and a sense of community and belonging. I welcome you, Tracy, family, my sister.
Yes.
So everyone grab your notebook, your paper, your pens, your phone, however you're going to take notes. And thank you, Tracy. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Reverend Melissa, my homegirl. I am so delighted to be here. I appreciate this opportunity. Words cannot express, and I'm actually trying to get myself together because the worship with Kimberly Shante, our music director, and everything that has been done, the prayer, and then a message just came through that I shouldn't look at. Maybe I shouldn't look at the post because I want to. Yes, thank you, Sonia Smith Hobson. I'll go ahead and call you out for your comment. You're a blessing as well. But I'm trying to get myself together. I didn't even bring any tissue because this wasn't supposed to happen. I'm supposed to share about Safe Zone High Point and our education that we offer. But I'm gonna make it through, and I'm just, I think, just filled this morning just with gratefulness and thankfulness. Just being here during the song and the prayer, reflecting on all the many blessings that God has bestowed upon me and my family, unspeakable. And we don't take anything for granted, not at all. We are thankful, count ourselves tremendously blessed just to be here and have our right minds, as the old folks say. Thank God for waking me up clothed in my right mind. And we are blessed today. And so we do want to take this opportunity to share with you. And we'll go ahead and bring up the presentation. I do have some slides that I'll share. And this, as Reverend Melissa mentioned, Safe Zone High Point is our organization. We are fairly new. We got incorporated and got started, became a 501c3 in 2019. And we're in the process of looking for raising funds and looking for a place, a physical location, a place to call home. And then we all know this thing called COVID happened. And my goodness, we've come a long way. God has blessed us and kept us through all of that. And we're still in it, but we're trusting that this is going to be over. And we may not be back to what we consider normal, but maybe a new normal someday soon. So what we've been offering since getting together in person has really been restricted, is our Safe Zone training, a workshop that we offer, just as Melissa said, about LGBTQ education. And we've been doing it virtually. So what we're sharing with you today is just a portion of that training, that workshop that we offer. Of course, a lot of things that we do in person. It's really highly interactive. It's engaging. It's in a safe setting. And people, all the attendants are sworn to be confidential about any and everything that is shared in there, so that everyone feels safe, because it can get personal as we do some reflections. We do group activities, some hands-on things, and just share. So definitely, with it being virtual now, we offer it free to the community at least once every quarter via either Google Meet or Zoom right now, until we're able to safely get together again in person. So what we'll share today are pieces and portions of that we can share, without all of course, the interactivity that we would normally do, but we'll do our best to share as much as that. And as you can see on that first slide there, our motto at Safe Zone High Point is a place where education cultivates awareness and empathy, and fosters healing in our community. Again, believing that education is a key to help us all with navigating this world and the society that has yet to welcome and accept and include everybody, despite or regardless of the diversity and the differences, and even things that we don't understand. So Safe Zone High Point, our goal is to provide as many opportunities as we can to educate people, to help have conversations. We promote even churches who want to have the conversation. We want to come in and share, and it's not about bashing anyone over the head and making you change your beliefs concerning the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community, but it's to help have a conversation. If you have questions, if you just don't understand, if you want a clearer understanding, if you want to at least have the conversations, that's what we are about. and hopefully being able to gain allies in the middle of that, in the midst of all of that. So on our next slide here, let me navigate here. I got a couple monitors going. We can see, and I found this image that I absolutely love that was created, and it's the anatomy of an ally. So an ally is that person who is able to, it may be a person of privilege in a sense. And when by privilege, I'm not referring to white privilege or any, I'm referring to that privilege when it comes to being a part of the group who is considered normal when it concerns sexual orientation and gender identity. And that would be straight people. That's kind of a place of privilege in our society. Heterosexism is a real thing. So if you're part of that community and you have privilege that those who are not in that community don't have. So you can become a wonderful ally and be that person who might not understand everything that the others endure, but when you see some inequalities, you're going to speak out on behalf of or act in solidarity with that person or those marginalized groups. And so an ally with a mouth can speak out against injustice, as you can see here on the slide. And with a nose, you can sniff out implicit bias. And we'll talk about bias in just a little bit. With your eyes, you can identify privilege. With the ears, you're able to listen to the POC, and that's people of experience, able to listen. With the heart, you're able to cultivate empathy for the oppressed. And with those hands, you can take action and make change. There are big and small things that allies can do. And again, Safe Zone High Point with our Safe Zone training, our workshop seeks to help people become better allies if that is their desire, and also just start conversations around these issues to help us better understand and stamp out the inequalities that exist. So let me slide on here to our next slide. And also, if you have any questions or any comments, you can post them, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll hopefully we'll have time in the end to address those, or maybe stop and talk as we're going through here. So what I wanted to do right now was just share a few things about how we're going. And the AmericanProgress.org does these surveys and keeps statistics on the plight of those who identify as LGBTQ plus. And so just a few statistics here just to get us going and see why it's so important, the work that we do in or other organizations like us. More than 1 in 3 LGBTQ Americans face discrimination of some kind in the past year, including more than 3 in 5 transgender Americans. And I'm just going to read through these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. They could speak for themselves. Discrimination adversely affects the mental and economic well-being of many LGBTQ Americans, including 1 in 2 who report moderate or significant negative psychological impacts. It's very real. To avoid the experience of discrimination, more than half of LGBTQ Americans report hiding a personal relationship, and about 1/5 to 1/3 have altered other aspects of their personal and work lives. Hiding. We might refer to that as in the closet in some ways. Around 3 in 10 LGBTQ Americans face difficulties last year accessing necessary medical care due to cost issues, including more than half of transgender Americans. And we can think about the cost issues. That affects a lot of people. A lot of people don't seek medical care because of cost, but when we're talking about specifically transgender Americans who disproportionately are not hired for jobs, don't have work, or homeless, that's a big deal. 15% of LGBTQ Americans report postponing or avoiding medical treatment due to discrimination, including nearly 3 in 10 transgender individuals, and they don't want to endure the discrimination. And then lastly, transgender individuals face unique obstacles to accessing healthcare, including 1 in 3 who had to teach their doctor about transgender individuals in order to receive appropriate care. That last one, the patient has to teach the doctor. And it brings me back to why we exist, Safe Zone High Point and other organizations like us who promote everyone educating themselves, getting educated so that we can be a better, more inclusive society. All right, let's keep rolling. And as we go through these, again, this is like a piece of our Safe Zone workshop, and with some things omitted because of time, and then that requires being interactive and things like that. But I wanted to share as much as we could, just so that as you listen and if you want to join us for the actual event, I'll talk about that a little later, how you can join the upcoming one. We have one coming up in August. And even how we can help you if you have people that maybe we can't reach, if you want to develop your own curriculum based on some of this content, we'll be glad to help you with that as well. So let's go ahead and move through here. A couple of other things I'd like to share on the next coming slides it's from an organization. It's their website is lgbtmap.org. And the organization, the MAP, stands for Movement Advancement Project. And they do a wonderful job of keeping up with what's going on in states when it concerns laws and policies concerning and affecting LGBTQ Americans. So what we have here is a map, and the next couple of slides have maps too with different topics. This is about sexual gender identity policies. So what we're taking a look at is, as you can see the legend on the right with the colors, it's letting you know which states have a high tally of policies that protect people based on gender identity. And green, of course, the highest, and all the way down to the red, which is a negative, meaning they don't really have any policies. And you can look across the map and see the colors that are on the states and the 5 U.S. territories down at the bottom there. So, and the state's policy tally, it counts the number of laws and policies within that state that drive equality for LGBTQ people. So the major categories of laws that are covered by the policy tally include things like relationship and parental recognition, non-discrimination, religious exemptions, LGBTQ youth, healthcare, criminal justice, and identity documents, being able to obtain new documentation for like name changes and things like that. So you can see, and then for our state, the wonderful state of North Carolina, where I am, we are at that little bit of an orange, low on the number of policies that are developed to protect people over gender identity issues. So we've got work to do. And as I mentioned, lgbtmap.org, take a look out there to keep yourselves up to date on what's going on, what laws are being enacted, what's needed. They do a wonderful job. So we'll move on here to the next one. This was based on sexual orientation. Pretty much the same. The color coding, you can see high is the dark green, and then the red is a negative, meaning there aren't really many policies at all, if any at all, to help protect people over sexual orientation issues. And then this next one, safe schools laws. I really was interested in this because we with Safe Zone High Point have a goal, and one part of our mission is to really reach out to young people who identify as LGBTQ plus, and be a safe space, a safe place for them. And as you can see here, that I guess that's a beige, the last color there on the right, no anti-LGBTQ school law or regulation. And look at our map across the country, all that beige. When we're talking about safe schools, something being enforced and enacted legally that's going to help protect these babies in the schools. And so part of what this map is showing are 3 distinct policies. First is the Don't Say Gay. I don't know if you've heard of that policy. It restricts teachers and staff from even talking about LGBTQ issues and people. Just can't even talk about it. Don't even say gay. The second distinct policy is that it's anti-enumeration laws, prevent schools or districts from adding sexual orientation and or gender identity or other categories such as race and disability to their schools' anti-bullying and anti-discrimination policies. You can't even add anything about sexual orientation or LGBTQ issues or anything. You can't add that to your school's policy. So these babies don't have anything enforced to protect them from the bullying in the school, except the individuals who stand up as allies, but there's nothing legally, nothing binding in their written policies over bullying and discrimination. And then finally, the parental opt-out law. This requires parents to be notified in advance of LGBTQ inclusive curricula, and allows parents to opt their children out of those classes, which, that's a touchy subject, what parents want, their children to learn in school. But again, education is a key to help us live in community. And so we just wanted to share a few of these with you all, just to get the wheels going here about the significance and importance of education around these issues and being current on what's going on and what it means to be an ally. Part of this is what it means. Part of it is to educate yourself, to understand what's going on, and find ways that you can put your hands to work, or you can use your voice to speak out. Ally. It's a wonderful gift if that's where you find yourself, and if you want to be a better ally, education. All right. Again, those maps came from the Movement Advancement Project. I'll share different resources as we go through the slides, just to make sure you know where you can go to get the same information that we gather to present to people. All right. So in our workshop, again, we spend time with some self-reflection to help everybody get comfortable and see how important it is to be able to do some self-reflection in order to be a good ally. In the term intersectionality, I tell you, that's something we've heard a lot more about in recent years, but it was penned and coined in 1989, way back. And it took all this time before we start looking at the fact that this is really what we need to focus on. So in essence, and I have here like the Oxford Dictionary definition, the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. Theoretical approach based on so formal. And at first glance, I'm like, what? So for me to be able to wrap my brain around what Kimberly Williams Crenshaw, who is the creator of the term back in 1989, to be able to wrap my brain around it and understand exactly what she's saying here and how to understand this, my definition there in my favorite color, purple, is the intersecting identities or social categories, race, gender, class, sexual orientation, religious beliefs, an individual possesses that are often the target of discrimination. So it's those identities, because we don't have just one trait or one identity about ourselves. We have these different pieces of ourselves that intersect and make us who we are. And for a lot of folks, those identities can be sources of discriminate, or not sources, but the targets of discriminatory practices, violence, hate, biases, bigotry, all of that. So what we do in our workshop is we have our attendees sit down and place their name in a little, you can see on the right, the little image there with a line in the circles. Inside of that, your name goes on that line, me. We'll do that. And then in each circle around there, you think about those different intersecting identities, those different pieces and traits of who you are. And it could be everything from race, for me, African-American, in case you hadn't noticed. And it could be your job, even your role in your family, where you're mother, you're the father, sister, I'm a teacher, I'm a firefighter, I am your sexual orientation or gender identity, I am lesbian or transgender, or all of those. You just place a few in there just to see them in writing. And then what we do is we go through and we ask our attendees to just share if they want to. All of this, of course, is voluntary. Is there an identity that you think about every day, several times a day? What part of who I am, which part of my intersectionality do I think about on a daily basis? And a lot of times we get answers like maybe race, the fact that I am an African-American, or Hispanic individual, or and sometimes there are people who are like, no, I don't think about that. And it's all different. There's no right or wrong. But just for us to reflect, even as you're listening today, is there an identity that you don't think about or very rarely think about? Again, it could be race, or it could be the fact that most of us probably think about our jobs every day. But we have, again, people to reflect on these. Which identity, if any, do you feel is most difficult? Can you think of a time when it is, or was difficult? Of which identity are you most proud, and why? So being able to reflect on these is really key to us getting to a place, even in our workshop, in our setting, to be able to just talk even more about other things and know that nobody's judged by any answers or anything like that. All right. In talking about intersectionality, we can't talk about it, of course, as Kimberly Crenshaw Williams penned it, around those folks who were considered minorities. So people of color, in this, we're seeing the acronym QPOC. That is referring to queer people of color, their intersection. So these are just a list of things, and we highlight this because there's no way we can do this education, this training, and not talk about the plight of queer people of color. So some things that queer people of color endure are the cultural reactions to identity. Yes, there are things that are happening without and outside your family, and you got a broad spectrum and generalized discrimination happening, but bring it home a little bit. Even within your own culture and family, there are reactions to your identity if you are out and you come out with that. So contending with that, along with racial prejudice, lack of role models, because who wants to come out if you're going to face all the other stuff? Limited economic resources, we know that is true. LGBTQ plus community neglect. Even within the LGBT community, there's still these like divisions that go on. People of color, marginalized people, even within that community. So and you've heard me throw this around quite a bit, the LGBTQ, and a lot of us know, or at least aware of what that means. But it's worth talking about just a little bit. And we do in our workshop, again, it's designed for people who are part of the community, who are not, who want to be allies, who have questions, who don't understand, even anti-LGBT. Come on in and have this conversation. It's designed to help bring clarity even on the basic level. So we assume that people maybe don't know. And so with that, we know that the L and the G and the T and the Q, the L for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and the Q for queer. And this little umbrella it's acquired from, actually, there's a website. You can get all of these resources and then others to kind of customize it if you want. They allow you to use their material. And that's what we do. We go out, we do our research, grab resources here, customize it to fit our training. It's called the Safe Zone Project.com, Safe Zone, the SafeZoneProject.com. And this kind of shows you how the acronym is, the word queer kind of encompasses all of it. And that word queer, you might hear me saying, and some people are cringing like, whoa, that seems like it's derogatory. It used to be used to be negative. And that is true. Initially, it was the term of the community, and then we got away from it because it was used to be a negative term. And now you have some people who are navigating towards it and saying, no, let's take it back. It's ours. So it can be used as an umbrella term to include all those who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, all the others, the intersex, asexual, all that, the other letters of the alphabet that can fall under here. So it's all kind of like they all fall under this umbrella. And you have some on the left, as you can see on the umbrella, the LGBT, talking about sexualities, and then the T on the right about genders or gender identity. So again, this is a wonderful way just to kind of help break down those letters, as people say, the gay alphabet or the LGBTQ alphabet, that's ever changing and ever growing. We can see that happen all the time. This next activity that we do in the workshop is called First Impressions and Mixed Messages. And so for many of us, our views and beliefs about those who are part of that that alphabet community or are different. Those views have been shaped by a lot of outside resources such as family, friends, media, church. And so we use this activity just kind of, again, to help us do some self-reflection on where those messages came from. So we ask people to reflect on what you learn about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people growing up. Think back. And we spend a little time on a worksheet individually, and we come together in a group, as a whole group, and discuss, if anyone wants to, some of these questions, like who or what mostly influenced your earliest impressions of LGBTQ people. Was it, some of the answers are like friends, family, television, church, things like that. What messages did you receive from the following? From media. We hear answers and responses like that gay people were fabulous, or always like the butt of the jokes, that kind of thing. And what kind of message did you receive from family? What kind of message did you receive from friends? So those can be, again, various messages, and all of us have our own experiences. A lot of times at our young ages, back in the day, and I'll tell you, I'm 52, so it was different back when I was coming up. So some of the, a lot of it would be negative messages concerning people, whether it was media, family, friends. It was negative. When was the first time you recall learning that some people are transgender? Even now, people are still like, well, what is that? And we have a few slides in just a little bit to talk more about transgender, what that means. How have your impressions of LGBTQ people evolved over the years? And for most of us, a lot of us, including myself, our impressions and our understanding have evolved and been transformed. For me, for the better. I'm so thankful. But some people will state it just hasn't changed, and which is that's their answer. And again, there's no judgment. So let's move on to I mentioned earlier that we talk a little bit about bias and what that is. So we just start out sharing just simple definitions. Like a bias is a strong feeling in favor of or against one group of people or one side in an argument, often not based on fair judgment. Your bias typically is not based on anything fair. Unconscious bias are those biases that are there, but we're not aware of them. And they have an impact on our interactions with those toward whom the biases are unconscious. You don't even notice it. You don't even recognize it, but it is affecting you, the way you interact with those people who are the object of the bias. So we really want people to take time to think about this and share, if they want to, any biases that they've recognized. But this part of the workshop is really personal and really about self-reflection and being honest with ourselves and helping us to get beyond this and realize. First, I think, can't recall who, if any, who coined the phrase, but I know I've used it myself. But the first, step in solving a problem is admitting that there is one and accepting that this is a problem. To have biases, unfair judgments of people, and unconscious ones is not a good thing. Recognizing that and admitting it, and that helps you to get to a place where you're able to tackle it and address it. So unconscious biases and phobias. The phobia, of course, is a negative attitude, like anger, fear, even resentment, intolerance, and even erasure. Try to just totally annihilate or act as if the person doesn't exist. That's directed at a person or group. So some of this is thinking of an LGBTQ person's sexuality and not viewing them as a whole person with many other attributes. It seems a lot of times when you have engaged with some people, or unfortunately are the receiver of any attack, the thing that is the focus is the sexuality part of this person's life. When that's just one facet, one area of who I am. But that seems to be, I don't know, some type of obsessed focus for some people. And then getting angry at public displays of affection. That's even happened. I've been around and seen that. and I'll just real quickly, I recall who is currently my wife, Tiffany, but at the time we weren't married. We went to a WNBA game in Atlanta. We wanted to see. I was a fan of Mercury, Phoenix Mercury, but I went to Atlanta to see them play against them. And we took the train to get to the stadium and everything. It was just a great time, great game. And a lot of people, different people there, just a lot of people coming through. So we were at the train station going, and there's, there were people who obviously same-sex couples walking hand in hand. And at this time, I was like nervous even about showing any public displays of affection because it was just scary sometimes for me. And this man who didn't know any of us, but he was walking with a lady and he was talking loud enough to make sure people heard. He's like, all of this gay stuff. And it was so awful. And I felt really, a part of me was angry. And then you just don't know what to expect from somebody who just does these outbursts like that. Are they going to lash out in any other way? But getting angry, just simply angry because a same-sex couple shows the same type of affection, holding a hand, even not even anything like kissing, but holding hands. Angry because they do that when heterosexual couples do it, and there's no problem. So that's a phobia or a fear and a bias. Assuming all LGBTQ plus persons are sexually active or promiscuous, again, focusing on sexuality and the sex side of things, assuming that there's no monogamy, that we're all just crazy, sex crazed, running rampant. That's so not my life. I'm a little bit calmer than that. Feeling LGBTQ plus people are too outspoken. When you stand up and speak for yourselves, you're just being too much. Kind of makes me think about maybe a Black woman being outspoken and speaking. She's considered an angry Black woman. Kind of the same thing. Thinking you have a gaydar. What in the world is that? No, thinking that you can spot gay people anywhere. You just know. That's craziness because you're attributing some types of stereotype to them or some stereotypical view, which very well not true. Assuming an LGBTQ plus person is attracted to you, that cracks me up because, yeah. Assuming LGBTQ plus people are sexual deviants or criminals. And I won't even elaborate on that too much, but we know that a lot of times gay men suffer this type of bias and phobia. And we have statistics and numbers as far as crimes that are committed, like sexual crimes towards the same sex or towards children. The perpetrator is a straight or not identifying as LGBTQ male. So we won't even go there. All right, so the next phase, after we spend some time on the biases and some self-reflection, we go on to make sure that everybody's speaking the same language. And in any culture, language is a thing, and it's ever changing, it's evolving. We have new words that are added to our dictionaries every year, all the time. And sometimes things that have been slang terms, they're added to the Urban Dictionary and they can move on to other dictionaries. So to be a great ally, it is helpful to be familiar with very common LGBTQ plus terminology. So we spend time having an activity where we just do some matching of terms, and it's not to test anybody, but it's just to get us talking. And it helps because even those of us who facilitate these workshops, we're still learning a lot. The language is vast and it's used in unique ways. It is okay to ask for clarity if you're ever unsure while in a conversation. We appreciate it. Asking for clarity is a good thing. It's a cool thing. It's not considered offensive. And as I mentioned, it is ever changing. So what I like to do is just share. I put out just a handful, but we do talk about quite a bit of terms that you've heard me mention and you might hear often. Gender identity. This is the internal perception of one's gender and how they label themselves. Okay. Gender expression is the external display of one's gender through a combination of clothing, grooming, demeanor, social behavior. And androgynous is a gender expression that has elements of both what we have known in our society, in our language, as masculinity and femininity. Transgender. It's an umbrella term for anyone whose sex assigned at birth, male, female, and their gender identity. You recall, we'll skip back. Gender identity is the internal perception. They don't correspond in the expected way. We'll talk more. Also, we do spend a little bit more time on transgender issues. Cisgender is kind of on the other side. It's a gender description for when someone's sex assigned at birth and gender identity correspond in the expected way. And let me back up. I'll say with the transgender is this person, we say sex assigned at birth. It's the terminology now. Sometimes you might hear born as male, female. More now, we're getting towards using the terminology, the language around sex that was assigned at birth. So assigned male, based on the, let's say the external genitalia, assigned boy or male at birth, grows up and identifies not so much as what the social norms are for a male or boy. Gender identity doesn't correspond. This person may be or may consider themselves transgender. And that cisgender person is, and these have nothing to do with sexual orientation. This is about identity, gender identity. Cisgender person was assigned girl or female at birth based on genitalia and what was presented at birth physically, grows up and identifies with how we expect girls to identify and socially and how girls dress and identifies as that. So it kind of matches, it corresponds. So that term cisgender is really helpful to kind of help us get into view the difference between what we consider normal, what some people say normal people, but it's cisgender and transgender are the terms. Genderqueer, that bottom one, is an umbrella term for gender nonconforming or non-binary identities. Again, nothing to do with sexual orientation or anything, about identity, how you identify. It's your body, it's your life, it's who you are, it's your mind. How do you identify? And because as a society, we have these social constructs and what we call gender norms, what we say, this is how boys act, this is how girls should behave, how they dress, how this is the type of job boys have, type of education even that boys go into and girls typically. These are all societal things, constructs that have been placed on us. We don't have to stay there. People should be free to identify and express how and who they are, how they want. So the term genderqueer kind of fits that person who doesn't conform to what society is expecting, not conforming to those what's expected societally when it concerns gender identity and expression. Let's see, we've got a couple more words here. Passing. This is used to refer to a transgender person being accepted as or able, excuse me, to pass for a member of their self-identified gender without being identified as transgender, or an LGBTQ plus person believed to be perceived as heterosexual. Somebody with their gaydar, they just missed it. They're like, oh no, I thought this person, I wouldn't have known they were gay. The term passing, some people use it, others don't, but it kind of refers to that. And I think back when we talk about race, think about people who, they used to use the term for people who physically might pass for another race, a black person, a person whose race is considered black, but they don't have their lighter skin, maybe have features that aren't typically considered a black race. And they used to use that term passing back in the day for that type of situation. Transphobia is the fear of discrimination against or hatred of transgender people, the transgender community, or gender ambiguity. Just transphobia. Again, we talked about phobias and biases, and this term is referring specifically to transgender people or the community. All right, I think, yeah, those were the last terms. Again, in the workshop, we spend quite a bit of time on some more terms. So we want to spend just a couple of slides here about sex and gender. Sex concerns the hormones, its chromosomes, sex characteristics like the genitalia, the facial hair, etc. Historically classified as either male or female. Gender is societal, as I've already mentioned, societal constructs associated with maleness and femaleness, what we've made maleness and femaleness. Historically classified as man or woman, and they vary in different cultures and have changed over time. And that lets you know this is social. It's something that we've created, what we've come up with, because it changes over time. In my example there, wigs, tights, and makeup were worn by men. What century? 18th century or back. We see those period films, those movies. Think about the England and the courts and the white wavy wigs and the pasty white makeup that men wore. So we know all this changes over time, and as we continue to educate ourselves, we're freeing people from these oppressions. That's what I like to call them. So societal binaries, male or female, it's either or, masculine or feminine, straight or gay. In reality, sex, gender, sexuality are continuums. They're not binaries. People don't fit in neatly into one box always. So you can see on one end of the spectrum, you've got male. Moving down, someone can identify as intersex and female, or man, as far as gender identity, man, genderqueer, woman. And even with sexuality, you've got straight, moving down, bisexual, gay. If you were to plot people on those spectrums, on those continuums, you would find people plotted everywhere along there. So it's no either or, no check this box or that box. And we need to free ourselves so that people are able to find themselves and identify how they choose and how they feel. Everyone has a gender identity. Everyone expresses their gender identity in some way. How to cut or not cut our hair, whether or not to shave the hair on our legs, what clothes to wear, whether or not, and what type of makeup to wear, what body parts to accentuate or not. We all make hundreds of conscious decisions every day about how we are going to express our gender. And I think sometimes it's just unconscious too. I think we have gotten into our routine that we don't even realize this is expressing my gender identity when I do this. But it's a part of, it's here. It's who we are. It's part of who we are. It's how we express. And again, people should be free in this area. And I have a little note there that some of this content, there's Trans 101. It is an article that I've adopted some of the content from by Jody Marksamer and Dylan Vade. You can find that online. Now, talking about a gender identity and how to express that gender expression and how you identify pronouns. We spend a little bit of time talking about pronouns and using inclusive language. And this is a part of the language that is ever growing. I have to look some of these up. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? But you want to show some respect when someone identifies with a certain one, what prefers to be referred to with a certain pronoun. By doing that, you are respecting their expression and how they identify, respecting them as a person. So it's important to think about it. And then this slide just shows some more of a few of those pronouns and how to use them in our grammar as far as showing possession and reflexive. This next slide, some do's and don'ts, some non-inclusive and probably some terminology that we're doing away with on the left here, and on the right, how to better use that some inclusive language. And again, you want to, if you're a speaker over a crowd, if you're a teacher, just one-on-one in a setting, you don't know how everybody identifies, but using inclusive language is so welcoming. I think it's one of the most welcoming things you can do. Especially, even I did some faculty from one of our schools here in High Point wanted me to do this workshop with their school, with their teachers and staff, because their concern was, how can I make sure my classroom is welcoming and inclusive? And they specifically wanted more understanding around transgender students. And that just warmed my heart that they were wanting this. That's what we do. We're trying to get out there and do this. So to make sure that if I'm a student and I come into that classroom, and say that I'm transgender, and I'm sitting there with all of my fears because I've already endured bullying for the day. I've already heard name calling. This is my first day of school. This year, I've endured all that stuff in previous years. Here we are, a new classroom. I'm at a new grade, new people in the classroom. I'm sitting there not sure how my year is going to go. And the teacher stands up and uses inclusive language. What does that do for me, my world? It just opens the world and gives me that sense of peace and safe. So it's important, just the language we use, just the terminology, even when you're not addressing specific people doing that. So some of the examples here, homosexual, that's a term that is kind of being played out. If you do a little bit of reading up on that, people are saying, I don't refer to, we don't want that term anymore. It's unfortunately had so many years of some derogatory remarks and comments, and even education around it. Homosexual was deemed a mental health disorder for forever, up until, oh gosh, it just left me the year. So in the medical, that big old medical book my wife has, she's a therapist. I forget if she were here. If you're here, Tiffany, listening, put it in the post. That big medical book with different mental health issues, disorders. But homosexual was in there until, like, I don't know, 70 something. The American psychology thing, and they took it out. So that's why kind of the history, homosexual, that term has some like negative connotations. So now people say gay, and that's kind of, again, like queer, kind of all encompassing. Born female or born male, now we're saying assigned female or male at birth. The a transgender or transgender person or trans person is the correct way to use that. Transgender people and normal people. I used that early on to kind of reflect on how people view the differences. Instead, it's transgender people and cisgender people. We learned that term earlier. Sex change or gender reassignment, and now you're hearing more conversations around gender affirming surgery, because that surgery to do what you need to do to alter the body is affirming your gender identity. Both genders or opposite sexes. We just talked about how there's no two check boxes, one end and the other end. There's so many. There's a spectrum. It's a continuum. So now all genders would sound more inclusive if you're talking. Ladies and gentlemen, what about the people in the group who don't identify maybe as either? Say everyone, or folks, or honored guests. Mailman, fireman, policeman. More inclusive language would be postal worker, firefighter, or police officer. All right, so just a few terms, and another couple of resources for you to go would be mypronouns.org and transstudent.org. Wonderful resources to get more information around pronouns and how important it is to use correctly. So let's move on here. We'll keep going to get out of your hair. What's all this transgender talk? We've talked about that, what transgender means. And so we'll slide through this, but just mentioning that transgender people are our friends, our neighbors, classmates, coworkers, relatives whose gender identity and or expression do not correspond to expected gender norms based on their sex assigned at birth. All right. And then just this next slide, just showing you what's considered the transgender flag down there at the bottom, the transgender symbol over on the right. And these terms too might be going away a little bit, but just if you see them or hear them, FTM or female to male, that transgender person who was born and assigned female at birth and identifies as male. And then MTF, assigned male at birth but identifies as female or woman. The term transsexual is dying out, but that has been used to refer to that person who's undergone either hormone therapy or that gender affirming surgery to alter their bodies to fit how they identify. All right, we're winding up here, and we just include a segment on coming out and some things about coming out. Um, to be out of as far as about your sexuality or your gender identity. It's threefold for those of us. It's accepting your own sexuality and identity, and then sharing it with those that you wish to share it with, and then you repeat it. Unfortunately, that third one I think is unfortunate because as we're still having to come out in different ways, a lot of times in different areas of our lives, whether it's starting a new job or this kind of thing. Sometimes you find that you have to do this all over, let people know. It'd be wonderful when we get to a place where this isn't even a thing. All right, so these are just some things that we share about the good, of course, with coming out, self-acceptance, removal of stress, hiding, build self-esteem, living. And then on the other side of that, the not so good, not everyone will be accepting, erasure, excommunicated or banned, whether it's from family, just put you out. That happens to young people. Unfortunately, the LGBTQ youth who are homeless, the numbers are astronomical. Parents cut off these youth as far as college funds and money. And then harassment and all that changed relationships negative with a negative impact. It does get better. So our allies, there's a little symbol on the left for what an ally. And it's, again, knowing the language, using inclusive language, listening, keep learning, commit full time. Don't be on again, off again as far as ally, or ally for some groups and not for others. Confront and share, being willing to be vocal and speak out or on behalf of when you see this discrimination. And just you come out too. If you're an ally, come on out. We need allies. All right. And that wraps up our presentation here. In our Safe Zone workshop, we do offer like these little decals if you attend the entire workshop. The in-person is 3 hours. Our virtual, we kind of had to vamp that down a little bit to 2. Just for you to put in your space, letting anybody who comes through know that this is a safe space. And it also starts conversation like, what is Safe Zone High Point? So it's twofold. All right. We do have some social media going on with our organization. We're on Facebook. We have just started a High Point LGBTQ plus community to get folks together in High Point, just knowing our neighbors and who's there. And it's a private group on Facebook. For those, you have to answer some questions and be willing to accept our rules. And then our Safe Reads Book Club is also private and it's safe. Then we do have book discussions, some books that are just either fun, educational, all kinds of wonderful things going on. These are fairly new. And what Safe Zone High Point does and what we intend to do once we acquire a physical location are these types of things to the community. We want to be that spot, that community center in High Point that offers these types of programs for our folks, all again centered on educating everyone. All right, I mentioned earlier our Safe Zone virtual training, free and open to the community, is coming up on August 7th from 10 to 12. This will be online, and what you have to do, you can visit us on either go to our website, safezonehp.org, or go to Facebook, and it'll direct you to our website. There's a link that you use to register, and all we're asking, and it's free, but all we're asking is that you provide your name and email, and so that you can receive the meeting. Again, it's not going to be public or posted on Facebook. The meeting, the actual the workshop happens via like Google Meet or Zoom in a more secure setting, because as you just saw, the content that we cover it can be very personal, and we want to make sure any space that we hold a function is safe. For everybody, regardless of views, we want to ensure it's safe. So the workshop occurs, and you'll get the link and meeting link close to the time, but you must register to attend that. Hopefully, we'll get some folks to join us. All right. Sorry about that. You do get to see. There we go. All right, we'll stop sharing. And do appreciate the wonderful opportunity to share with you. And as you can see, it's near and dear to my heart, and I probably could talk for another hour, but it's really more fun when I'm able to talk to people in person and hear you and hear your feedback. And I see there are comments and everything. So Reverend Melissa is back with us. I don't know if he had any questions or anything that I can answer or try to answer.
I didn't see any questions come, but I'll just share. This has been such a powerful workshop, and as you all know, this is our holy word for today. I was just sitting here and just reflecting on all the resources and the wealth of knowledge that Tracy has shared with our community on our LGBTQ, resources and education. And I hope you all are ready to take some of this with you in
Mhm.
your community, um, even share with your family members, because I am mindful that education begins at home. If we can equip those that are close and dear to us about topics that they may be uncomfortable learning outside
Mhm.
of our homes or our sacred places, then this is where we do it. This is where our strength and our power comes from. And as you were sharing, I found this quote. It says, "Education is the passport to the future.
Mhm.
For tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today."
Yeah.
And that's by Malcolm X. So,
Mhm.
Tracy, this has been rich. It has been powerful. Just the depth of this holy word, if you will, as it shared about privilege and class and intersections and all the things that we may not think be a part of who we are when we show up. So, my prayer today for you all is simple. My prayer is that if you are an ally, take a moment to think about what it means to be a healthy ally.
Mhm.
As we reflect on this world and show up for all people that are marginalized or othered, let's reflect on how we will advocate and show up with our senses. That graphic was perfect. The eyes, the ears, the
Mhm.
mouth, the hands, the feet.
Love it.
You, all of you, whatever you
Mhm.
got that you can use to show up, whatever you have that you know that you have this part of privilege can show up to just support those who are not privileged in a certain place. So my prayer for you is that you find your superpower
Mhm.
using your senses to show up and to express and speak out and against any injustice or inequity for
Yes.
persons who are considered different
Mhm.
because we're more colorful or because of our race, our
Right.
gender, our sexual orientation, our religious beliefs, and
Yes.
even our relationship status. I'll add that
Mhm.
too.
That's true.
So my prayer is that you take this word that has been given to us and you fix it in a way or um, create it in a way that it helps you to be a change for justice in this
Mhm.
world. Thank you, Tracy. This has been everything. And I'll see you soon.
Mhm.
So we have an announcement. I want to invite you to our next event, which is Wednesday, July 21st. And remember, I told you all that I am bringing my Howard family and friends this month because uh, my most impactful education happened when I was getting a theological education at Howard University School of Divinity. So, y'all, my family, my friends are going to be here Wednesday. And what brings us all together is that we are all Pentecostal and apostolic. So, we're going to come talking about the Holy Spirit, Pentecost, and what do we do after Pentecost. So, come on, bring your questions. It's going to be fun. Um, it's going to be churchy. I'm pretty sure it's going to be churchy. So I'm going to warn you all right now when we get together, who knows what happens? We're going to move in the spirit. And we're going to talk about what that means too. Just being able to just move in the spirit and worship and speak in the spirit. So I want to invite you to join us on Wednesday, July 21st, and pray for me, pray for your virtual pastor and spiritual director, as I will be traveling this week, and I will be in Texas. So the Holy Ground Spiritual Center Virtual Church will move with me to Texas as I work that weekend. So keep me lifted and keep praying for me. It's going to be my first flight since COVID. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm a little nervous, but I know that I am covered, and I know that you all are gonna keep me lifted. So we're gonna go out with another member of our Living in Truth music team, Roderick McCoy, and he's gonna sing us out. That's gonna be our prayer and our charge and our reminder that we have everything we need to go forth. And if this service or any of our events have been a blessing to you, and you enjoy how we are doing things and doing this holistic faith, we invite you to share your gifts with us, because we know it takes money to keep this thing moving along. So we want to invite you to share your gifts with us. You can text GIVE to 980-326-5001, or you can go to our website at holyground.org. That's WHOLYGROUND.org. And you can give from there. If you have any prayer requests, catch us in our messenger, our website, and send them over. And if you are looking for a safe space that is affirming, that values justice, compassion, interspirituality, we invite you to join Holy Ground. I am Reverend Melissa McQueen Simmons. I would love to be your virtual pastor or your spiritual director as you navigate this thing called life and faith. Thanks for joining us.
There's nothing worth more that could ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome. Come flood this place, fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. There's nothing worth more that could ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome. Come flood this place, fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Holy Spirit, you are welcome. Come flood this place, fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord.